Welcome to a special bonus episode of Public Power Underground. Public Power Underground is Public Power's premier infotainment program that covers public power and public power adjacent news from a power department's perspective. I'm Paul Dockery, the creative director of Public Power Underground and manager of the power department for Clatskanie PUD. In this bonus episode, Matthew Schretnick, Karen Heim, and I talked to Debra Smith, the general manager and CEO of Seattle City Light. We talked to Debra about the electric utility enthusiast, trifecta, electrification, markets, and power people. We also play a new intermission game where we do our own version of a mock draft. Matt and Karen are regular contributors to Public Power Underground, but in case you aren't familiar with our podcast, a brief introduction. Matt is the power planning supervisor and staff counsel for Eugene Water and Electric Board, normally shortened as EWEB. EWEB is a water and electric utility that serves the communities of Eugene, Oregon. Matt is a special correspondent for Public Power Underground and a regular participant in these bonus episodes. Karen Heim is the Jamie Tart of Public Power, editor-at-large of Public Power Underground, and has a day job as the office administrator for Public Power Council. PPC represents Pacific Northwest consumer-owned utilities on important issues in the region and Washington, D.C. to further its mission of preserving and enhancing the benefits of the federal Columbia River power system and its members. Before we transition to the conversation with Debra, a quick word from our presenting sponsor. The presenting sponsor of Public Power Underground is the Energy Authority. The Energy Authority is a nonprofit energy portfolio management company owned by public power entities like us. TEA's mission is to help clients maximize the value of their assets and meet their power supply goals. TEA does this by providing expertise in energy trading, advanced analytics, renewable solutions, and a whole lot more. Over 60 public power utilities have partnered with TEA to tackle their energy future. So if you are looking for an energy authority to partner with in navigating the uncertain future of our industry, visit TEAinc.org. That's TEAinc.org. The Energy Authority, there is underground as it gets. Now, I'll hand it over to Matthew Schretnick with the EWEB's Power Planning Supervisor and Staff Counsel and Public Power Special Correspondent to get us started.
All right. Today, Karen, Paul, and I are joined by Debra Smith to talk about electric utility enthusiasm, market expansion, electrification, and public power people. Debra is the CEO and General Manager of Seattle City Light.
Prior to joining Seattle's community-owned electric utility as its chief executive, she was the general manager at Central Lincoln People's Utility District and Oregon PUD, serving the Oregon coast from Reedsport to Depot Bay.
Debra has a long history of leadership in the Northwest, including positions of increasing responsibility at Eugene Water and Electric Board before Central Lincoln PUD, and holding positions on numerous boards, councils, and panels, including as a recent chair of PPC.
Debra, first question, and what I'm hoping is going to be the easiest. May we call you Debra?
You can call me Debra, but I will say this, please call me Debra. Lots of times I run into people, they're usually, I'm going to make a generalization. This will probably be the first of many, but they're usually older white guys who have a need to call me something more familiar. Although most of them, at my age, most of the older guys are actually dead at this point, but they're not in the work world. But anyway, so they call me Debbie, and then I correct them and I say, if you want to call me something other than Debra, call me Deb. So Deb is okay, but Debra is best. And by the way, does our audience know that I first met your acquaintance, Matt, when I was working at the Eugene Water and Electric Board, and I've had, oh no, I was already gone, wasn't I? I was already gone, but we met in Portland at PPC meetings. And
that is exactly right.
Yeah, that's right. But I've been to your house, and
you heard I was coming, and so you got out of there.
Person. Yeah. I haven't seen any of yours, Karen. I guess you only have one, but
Yes.
I've never seen Sydney in person, but I appreciate when you send me pictures of her. And Paul, you haven't sent me any pictures of your kids. I don't understand.
Not yet. We'll wait for it. We'll try to figure out this relationship first, and then we'll decide if I'm going to send you pictures or not. You know, we have to evolve. There's a level of intimacy. Yeah, I will call you Debra, and then we'll see if I send you kid pics. That's the relationship.
Exactly. Yeah, Debra was kind enough, still lives in Eugene part of the time. I understand you still have family here in town. And when my son was born, when our first was born, kind enough to come by, say hello, and bring us a dinner. So thank you very much for that.
Wow.
A little over
That's very
4 years
nice.
ago.
That's not great. Yeah.
But yeah,
I live in
the one thing
Gladstone now. If you want to bring a one by when my baby comes in about a month, so just outside
Yeah.
Portland.
Of course. Well, nowadays I can send you HelloFresh, or there's all kinds of ways.
That's
of
true.
There you go.
That is
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
I let the narrative get away from me. I don't want to go on without having said this. So welcome to Public Power Underground. Thank you so much for joining us.
Wow. Well, I wasn't expecting that, but it does make me feel very welcome, and I'm just happy to be here. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
well, Debra, in the spirit of optimism and getting the tone right for the rest of the recording, we wanted to start with your thoughts on what's going well. So what gives you hope for our industry and our region? What's going well?
Oh gosh, well, there's lots of things that are going well, and I actually, because you had all these lists, and I felt, so I'm just going to own right up front for our listeners that it makes me nervous to be on a podcast with a bunch of millennials. even though we didn't we officially establish that Paul was on the borderline last time we talked? I think
I prefer elder millennial. Okay, I'm an elder millennial. I don't know that Matt actually is a millennial.
I don't know
He
if
may
he is
be
either.
Gen Xer.
Yeah.
Hey, Matt,
No.
quick question: do you
Yeah.
identify more with Friends or Parks and Rec?
Oh God, I guess if I have to choose between those two, yeah, Parks and Rec. But
I think
according to
that makes you-
Wikipedia, 81 is the cutoff for millennial, and I'm an 81.
Okay.
Well, you're right there, and you get
Yeah.
to decide, right? That's the beauty. You can self-identify as a
That's true.
millennial.
But I
Right.
I self-identify Parks and Rec, even
And
though
no one's
technically
ever
it should
going
be
to
Friends.
question you. What my point in saying that was that normally when I do these kinds of things, I actually am completely unprepared, and it's kind of become my hallmark. You never know what she's going to say, and that's okay because she doesn't either. But today I actually took a moment to write a few things down. So I've got 5 things that I think are going well that I'd like to share with us today. Number 1, back to office. And I would say, how many of you are spending time in your former workplace office? And Karen, you don't count because I don't think you guys have one anymore, do you?
Oh, no, we do. We are just not, we are going back in May. So right before our
Okay.
meeting is when we'll be back. Yeah.
Okay. How about you guys? Paul's in his office.
I am in my office. Klotzkin IPUD is back in person.
Yeah. How about you, Matt?
We're still trying to figure out where we're going to put everybody.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
honestly.
yeah. And you're moving stuff. I'd like to talk to you about that sometime offline. But we're back in the office, and I've been in the office all along, but now we've got people that are in the office. We've asked folks to come back at least one day a week, and lots of folks are coming in too, and they're enjoying it. So it's really nice. It's just really great. It's like going on a really, really, really long vacation, and you come back and you're really happy to see people that you didn't even really like that much before, but you were gone so long. It's great.
It's a silver lining.
Yeah, these people I actually really liked, and now we're back together and it's great. Number 2, we're having a cold spring, and I had to put on fur-lined boots to walk up the hill today, and it was cold. It is cold. So, but higher loads, and in fact, I wish you could all see me because our historical load graph, it looks like a reverse duck curve. It's got this big, or no, it's the hockey stick pot. Remember that one, the hockey stick that we show everyone? Yeah, it looks like that because we've had such cold weather here, and now thankfully it's starting to warm up a bit, but you have lots of snow in the mountains and better chance of high secondary revenues. So that's good. Number 3 is that infrastructure dollars are just starting to flow. We're starting to get a better handle on that. And in fact, we were talking earlier, I know this will show later, but Grid Forward is here in Seattle. By the way, that's another good thing, back to in-person meetings. And they actually had more people want to come than they could accommodate, just because I think folks are ready to get out and about. So, infrastructure dollars beginning to flow. We're going to be talking. I'm actually going to have the opportunity to talk to a couple of folks from DOE about that tomorrow at Grid Forward. And I'm excited. I think it's going to be the Hunger Games of utility funding. Who can get there first and get the most? And I'm going to win.
That's exciting to you. That's exciting to you. This the type A personality
I feel like
coming
it's like
through.
a tame Hunger Game.
Yeah.
Yes, like not
Hopefully.
full.
Yeah. What was that? Yeah. Okay. Number four. Well, yeah. Number four. We are now. This one I really like. We, all of us on this call, and probably everyone who's listening to this call, we are now the new popular kids. We're the popular kids on the block. Everyone wants to be an energy geek now. We've been it all along. Some of us have suffered through the pain of being labeled, and no one wanted to hear about what you did at work. And now they mostly still don't want to hear about what we do at work, because they would rather deal with their vision or their, what they think the industry is like, just like what's base load and why should it matter? But again, we do the work that matters. And I think, honestly, in all seriousness, it is kind of interesting after 25 years in the industry to find that, this is at the top of the president's list. It's at the top of, most people's list, and it's exciting. So I love that. And last but not least, number 5, but closer to home. Here in Seattle, we have a new mayor and a slightly different balance of power on the Seattle Chamber City Council. And since I've never worked for EWEB was a municipal utility, but we had our own elected board who governed us, but I've never worked for a utility that reported into a city council. So I had no idea really what a change in administration meant when a new mayor comes in, et cetera. But I will say that I seem to still have a job. So, and it's like 4 months in. So I'm calling it good news. And I think we're going to rock and roll through the year. So that's my what's going well today.
It's like you knew that the way to our heart was through a numbered list,
Yeah.
because that is the surest way to win us over. Is you give us 5 things in a numbered list. Love it, every minute of it.
Thank you. Well, I have lists for everything.
That's perfect.
But rarely do I cross them off as well as I just did. So that was good.
Good to make a to-do list. It's the check marks that are hard. Yeah, Debra, thank you. Thank you for the inspiration. Paul's right. Probably the quickest way to our hearts here. One of the few areas that we keep coming back to, you'd mentioned, coming back into the office earlier in our guest interviews, keep coming back to in our guest interviews, I should say, is one that I know is close to your heart as well, which is attracting, retaining, and recruiting talented, capable, diverse, and hopeful new professionals to public power. And I'm hoping you have a public power pitch, or maybe even a list of public power pitches that the rest of us could add to our recruiting repertoire. Specifically, hoping to hear your thoughts and your perspective on the role diversity, equity, and inclusion will play in attracting these people, retaining their services, and recruiting them across the finish line, and how you work to kind of apply those perspectives in practice.
Yeah, thank you. So, what Matt said, he was born in 81. My oldest son was born in 86. And it is interesting because at this point, a lot of the folks that I get to work with every day really are about the age of my adult children, because I have 5 adult children. They are all partnered off. And it wasn't always like that. And I remember when I would attempt to take lessons learned from home when I had kids your age, Matt, and bring them to the office. And for some reason, that didn't go over well. People sometimes felt insulted that I was thinking of them as one of my children. But today, that's no longer true. In fact, I learned an awful lot about how to be relevant in today's workplace from my children. And so, because they are all successful professionals in their own right, and it's super helpful. So, yes, we are, I mentioned to folks when we were prepping for this call, we have a 16% vacancy rate at Seattle City Light right now, which is a lot. It is definitely, you reach a point where I think, having gone through the process of getting here over the last year or so, anything above around 10% starts to really be noticeable. And that extra 6 points definitely is impacting how we serve our customers and how well we can. So we are out there looking for new people all the time. And I'll tell you, one of the things we are really doing, which we've never done before, is we are leaning into our employees. And we are providing tips and guidance to them. Our people and culture group, which is what we call human resources, are saying, hey, start talking to your friends and family about what a great place this is to work and all the things we have to offer. Here are some tips. Here are some talking points. We're really changing how we do recruiting, and we're working on a different approach with LinkedIn. In the past, we used to do very specific, very granular job descriptions, position descriptions. I can tell you that because I remember that you have did the same thing. Well, what we're trying to do now is we're trying to post position descriptions that are broader. I'm not looking for a purple squirrel. I'm looking for somebody who can come and bring value to the utility, to the customers we serve. And then I think the last thing I'll say, and then I do want to talk a little bit about diversity, equity, inclusion, is we're being very mindful of the fact that the Great Recession is really about folks choosing to prioritize purpose over pocketbook. And so when we talk to potential employees, and even when we talk to our employees, because as you pointed out, Matt, retention is just as important. We're trying to talk about the value that we bring and the importance of the product and service, and why we can do better, because we can do better, and how they can be part of helping us do better, and why their role in positioning us as a utility of the future is critical, and why we really do need young, committed professionals, as well as seasoned, experienced utility executives in order to run this utility. It takes everyone. And there's a lot of opportunity right now. So we are also talking about that as we begin to turn over. We're going to have quite a few positions at the senior level turnover in the next 2 to 3 years. And that all trickles down. And there's going to be lots of spaces for people to move into and to grow. And that, I said that was my last point, but one more point I'm going to say. We are moving away, especially maybe not so much in the entry level positions, but every position that opens up, does trickle down. We are really working hard to say, it's not about the technical skills. I can train you on the technical skills. It's about hiring for leadership skills, hiring people who are going to align with what we're trying to do, but bring value and bring new ideas that we've never thought of. So that's what we're doing. Let me talk a little bit about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So long ago, and this is really key to how I think about it, long ago and far away, when I worked at eWeb, we went through a period of time where literally everyone went through Crucial Conversations training, and it's a curriculum. It's offered by a company named Vital Smarts, and I wound up becoming one of the trainers. And then ultimately, when I moved to Central Lincoln, we put all our employees through it, and I continued to train. So Crucial Conversations, and Crucial Conversations is a great curriculum, but it's stuff that most development programs cover. So it's not rocket science. But their language talked about something called the pool of shared meaning, and the idea is that you want people to put their thoughts, ideas, perspectives into the pool. And that when you're having a crucial conversation, it's my job. If I'm having a conversation with Paul, it's my job to make it safe for Paul to put whatever he's got on his mind into that pool, because if he doesn't, it's still there in his mind, which either means I'm missing something important, or two, it means I don't really know what's going on with Paul. Neither of those are good places to be. So, I believe that the more information, the more diversity of thought, perspective, et cetera, that goes into that pool, the better the outcome, the more apt we are to avoid blind spots, and the fewer unintentional hurts. So number two, as public utilities, we are owned by the people we serve, and we should be relatable to all of them. You already heard me talk about relevance. And so, there's so many different isms, right? I'm going to try to have this conversation without talking about a lot of them, because it's almost like at this point, the risk is I don't want to leave something important out because I don't have the right words. But as a relatively diverse city in the Northwest, I want to say that Seattle City Light has a diverse customer base, and our employee population should reflect that. But two, I want to throw out, in addition, when I think about having come from Central Lincoln, which was a rural utility, it was There was not the kind of racial diversity that there certainly is here in Seattle. And yet even rural, primarily white utilities benefit greatly from diverse perspectives when we receive them from employees who come from different racial, gender, socioeconomic, and even neuro backgrounds. And I mean, that's one that we're starting to talk about more and more, right? People think differently. And there isn't a right or a wrong way to think. And actually that's that's some significant value. And yet some of the folks who think most creatively have run into a lot of obstacles in their life. Well, let's create a world where that's not true. And I think the future of work that we're doing right now, part of it will deliver that. Number 3, young employees are, in my opinion, quite frankly, less concerned about the color of their colleagues' skin or who their colleague sleeps with. Having a diverse workforce demonstrates that commitment and is an important recruitment tool. I see that in my kids. They just don't care. It isn't like they're so enlightened. It's just not as important, and so maybe you guys feel that way. And I hope you do. I hope we all do. Number 4, last point. So those are all things around how you recruit somebody. But what about the equity inclusion component? So in my mind, ultimately, the job of any leader is to provide an environment where all people can come to work and feel safe and supported and able to do their best every day. Note, I said environment, not building. And I really thought about that as I was writing that down, because even if you're working at home, I do believe that as an employer, I am creating your work environment. It might mean I might be providing you with equipment. I'm certainly providing you with the tools, whether it's Teams or Zoom or whatever you use, and everything that goes with that. So I'm still responsible for that environment, even if it's a flat screen. The only way people feel safe, and what we've learned through the pandemic, is that while physical safety can mean the difference between going home at the end of the day or not, emotional safety can mean the difference between coming back to work the next day or not. And so I am super committed to creating an environment that honors both. And I think when we look back on the pandemic, that really is one of the great learnings. It started out where it was all about physical safety. And probably for the first 6-9 months, that was true. And I think come probably, in my mind, October or so far of 2020, when we started to see the numbers really tick back up and people became frustrated and it became hard, we started recognizing that our employees' emotional safety and their emotional wellness was just as critical as their physical safety, at least for office employees. I never want to say that that's true for high voltage, but even there, to the extent I have an employee who's engaging in work that is physically demanding, risky, et cetera, I want their heads fully in the game. And I don't want, if they're struggling emotionally, if they're struggling with stuff that's going on, they're not physically as safe. So that's how I would connect that. I think it's super important.
A lot to process there. I think that was
Yeah.
brilliantly said, and thank you. You can tell when all 3 of us go off mute and still take a moment to process. Paul, you were saying, sir.
Well, to get to like the diversity, the value of the diversity of thought and the need for a safe environment where people feel like they're heard, valued, and appreciated, some might even say, in order to be able to offer their thoughts and bring their diversity to bear and their different ways of thinking. I'm wondering how you mentioned at the beginning, like this idea that you're rethinking some of your position descriptions and the way you frame. Can you talk a little bit about how you've marketed to non-traditional paths to electric utilities? Are you trying to recruit philosophers and arts and letters? Is that part of what you're doing, is trying to get, hey, I need some more soft skills? Or is it, hey, I need the skills, but they can be working in oil and gas and they can come work for Seattle City Light? Can you talk a little bit about the different backgrounds and flexibility of background?
I can try. I wish, I would say, I don't know that we're as far along there as I'd like us to be. And part of what is challenging in our environment in Seattle, I don't know if you guys are all aware of this, but most of our jobs are union. So all but about 100 people of the quote, about around 1,800 authorized positions are in a union. Our managers and supervisors are in unions. And a lot of our employees are called strategic advisors. They have working titles that are much more defined. And it's in the definition of the working title and the tasks. So it's the knowledge, skills, and abilities, the piece of most position descriptions that tend to, I get so focused in on what I need you to be able to do that 3/4 of the PD is talking about specific tasks and skills you're going to do. And then somewhere in there, it throws in the notion of leadership skills. We're trying to flip that. And we're trying to say that, and again, not all jobs are the same. So there's certain jobs where I do need you to have a very clear technical skill set. And I think you guys are all at a point in your careers where the farther up you go, the more your job is about living with and clarifying ambiguity for other people. So I often tell managers and supervisors that a big part of their job is dealing with ambiguity. And during COVID, a big part of our job as leaders was to resolve as much of that as we could for frontline workers so that they could get their jobs done. So if I want you to do that, if I want you to be a person that can resolve ambiguity for yourself and for others, there are probably characteristics about you. In other words, what I want you to do is I want you to be flexible and agile, right? Okay, so there are ways to get at that. And if all of the questions I'm asking you in the interview are about your technical skills and the skill set you bring to the job, I'm never going to get at it. And that's really what I want to know, because theoretically, I can check on your technical skills in a number of different ways. So having said all that, because we are in a very union organized environment, it is challenging to make dramatic changes the way that you could do, or that some could do in the private sector. And that even some utilities could do who have a smaller union footprint. So we're still figuring it out. I don't have the answer for you. I know that's why you brought me on here, was because someone told you that I would have the answers. And now I feel like you're probably not even going to run this episode because
I mean, we may cut all this. I mean, that's just the truth of the matter, right?
Yeah, it's going to make you look like you didn't know what was going on by thinking that I did.
Yeah, but nobody knows yet.
It's our secret.
It's our secret. Maybe nobody will ever know. But there was one other thing that really resonated with me before we moved to the next topic, which is, you mentioned that we're all now the cool kids. It was one of your 5 things, right? And this is in a lot of ways the age of electric utility enthusiasm. And how much can you leverage? Do you think we can leverage that to kind of recruit more diverse backgrounds? Because for me, it comes down to, can I widen the pool of people who think I'm an option? Because if I can widen the pool of people who think I'm an option, I can have more access to really talented people, including philosophers like Matt.
I absolutely think that that's true. And I think there's 2, but I reserve the right to come up with a 3rd one while I'm talking. So
I love your numbered list. This is so good. It's so good. Crystal Ball's going to be so happy with this.
Yeah, I think there's so how do I expand my pool? So one is I sell the purpose. I mean, so we do noble work, and I want to be clear. And I think public power does more I don't even know that I actually think that. So this is going to maybe blow it for me again. But I think the majority of employees who work in investor-owned utilities are just like you and me and Paul and Karen and everyone else. Most employees are not getting paid a whole lot more than their counterparts on the public sector. And they came to the work and they're willing to get up in the middle of the night, or they're willing to take on risk, or they're willing to do whatever it takes because they feel like it's important work. And so I'm just saying that because I generally don't buy into we're public power, so we really care about people, and these other people don't so much, because they do. In fact, if I talk to one of my colleagues at an investor-owned utility, and I was at a meeting last week where I said as much. I said, the only difference between you and me is that you make a hell of a lot more money than me. So I think we sell the purpose and then the nobility of the purpose. And I think that we've fallen down on that. And I think in public power, we have focused so much on differentiating, on creating that them and us thing. So even when we talk about the value of public power, which sometimes doesn't land, sorry. But what we really can be talking about is the value of doing work that is critical to people's parenting, education, employment, comfort. You know, Google has their vision is to make life easier. You know, and I think, what's our vision? And I thought this all the way back at eWeb. Our vision, on the one hand, what we do is we make life more comfortable. And we make, you know, we make life. Yeah, that was good. Paul has a great look on his face.
Yeah, we're getting a t-shirt that says we make life more comfortable.
Well, I mean, it's true.
It's going to be a t-shirt. It's going to be in the merch shop. Look for it.
Yeah. So I think that's number one. We sell the value of what we're doing. And number two, we sell the moment, because this is the moment, right? You want to do something, you want to be part of true transformation. Very, very rarely, and I'd have to sit and think about it for me, very, very rarely does an industry truly transform while in the midst of providing critical products and services. Mm-hmm. I just can't think of many where that's happened. And that's what's happening right now. And I've been in the industry for 25, 26 years. And I mean, for a long time, we talked about change is coming, change is coming. And I think we were a little bit like the frog in the boiling water. I think it was happening and we really weren't. It was getting kind of hot in the kitchen, but we didn't really notice. And then all of a sudden, whoa, and we're in it. And, you know, we're in it and it's hard. And unfortunately, the interplay with COVID, it slowed us down in some ways, but it also created space for us to think in other ways. And I think as we are coming back together, give an example, public power. Yes, we need to be back in the same room together, but do we need to do it every month? And do we have an opportunity? I don't think we will be doing that. So we'll have an opportunity to come together every few months, and people save a lot of time. Can we use that time to imagine the future? And can we sell the future to the next generation and to the people that are out there in the 2030s right now today? That's what we got to do.
Absolutely. Karen, it sounds like you're going to have a little bit more management of online resources for Public Power Council as part of this transition. We're enthusiastic about it.
I love, to be honest with you, one of the things that I love seeing, and I love both Scotts. So, and I would never choose one or over the other. I want to go on record with that. But one of the things I do love seeing with Scott Sims is Karen's role has changed. You know, and I think that's indicative. I do think that is indicative in some ways of the, you know, the younger Scott. You know,
just, I mean, director of member services, right? I mean, like director of member engagement. That's a good title for Karen,
yeah,
right?
I think so. But I mean,
Paul has been pushing for that title.
her role has changed, and it's
true. It has.
It's been great to watch you like embrace it and excel at it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so and see that Scott's been willing to take some risk. Not that it was really risky. Everyone knows how incredibly brilliant you are, but just, you know, hey, maybe you don't have everything I was ever looking for on paper, but gosh, you're awesome.
Yeah, history major right here. No, yeah, there you go.
We love the history majors at Public Power Underground. It's like,
absolutely.
We just need to recruit more history majors. That's how we.
My daughter, who's an attorney, was a history major, and yeah, it was a great background for her.
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3 is, and it depends on the year. Poli-sci, history, and philosophy for law.
I thought you were implying that you had done all of them.
No,
I was like,
no.
wait a minute, you majored in these 3 things?
I went to school for way too long, but thankfully it only included one undergrad
like, it wasn't
major.
that long.
Yeah. I think what we need to do is get, Deborah already made the point around, you know, you've got working titles that may be different. So we give you that really cool official title, director of, you know, strategic member relationships or what have you. But then the working title is simply bouncer.
She is the bouncer.
That is also true. I do fit the just the generic description of a bouncer. So happy to play that role.
gonna have to shut you down. That's a good one.
Debra, thank you very much for that. We have to take a quick break for capitalism, but are you willing to stick around to chat a little bit more after intermission?
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Before we get to that mock draft, a word from our sponsor, NWPPA. Northwest Public Power Association believes in public power. For 82 years, NWPPA has supported public power utilities and other associates in the greater Pacific Northwest by offering education, training, communications, government relations, and services like RFP and job postings. In addition to public power, what else is important to NWPPA? Local control, member needs, integrity, and quality products and services. Today, NWPPA proudly serves 155 member utilities and more than 325 utility industry associate members. Learn more or register for a class at nwppa.org. That's nwppa.org. Believe in public power. Now I'll hand it over to Matt to kick off the game with Debra. Okay, Debra, are you ready for the intermission game?
I have to share something because I've been wanting to cut in with it and I haven't been able to, and it'll bug me if I don't. Debra, you made the comment about trying to take the lessons you learned at home to work. Ray Romano, you remember Everybody Loves Raymond? After he had kids, he took a bunch of time off and then came back like 3 years later to do stand-up and walked up on stage and did the whole bit about, I haven't done this in a while. I just had kids here. Let me try, some of the stuff that works at home. And he just takes out his car keys and jingles them at the crowd. And I always think of that whenever people make comments about stuff that they bring in, stuff they learn from home. And
well, wait, listen.
Makes me smile.
I can do a really good. I have a 6-year-old grandson, and I can do a really good imitation of an elephant. Ready?
Leave it in. Leave it in.
Leave it in. Leave it in. Leave it in. Okay.
Great. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you for that diversion. Okay, are you ready for? I came up with an intermission game. I love making intermission games. I put a lot of effort into a lot of them, including this one. I'm calling it the Fantasy Utility Draft. Okay, Debra, are you ready for this Fantasy Utility Draft? Here's the concept.
Super ready, yeah.
Okay. So we're I've explained this already to all of you. I'm gonna give the basics for our listeners. So we're drafting a team of utility professionals from characters on hit shows. So we're going to draft for 5 different positions. I don't know how long this is going to take. It's going to be fine. I don't know. Maybe we'll skip all my draft picks. Who knows? Positions we're recruiting for: CFO, a customer service representative, a line foreman, distribution engineer, and a power manager. I think we can all agree those are critical positions in electric utility, right?
In that order, though, by round, right?
And in that order, that's a very good clarification, Matt. So the first round, we have to just draft CFOs because I was not going to go through the work of assigning each character from the hit TV shows their draft eligible position as well. I didn't feel as though I was qualified for that. So we're going to pick characters from the hit series Schitts Creek, Succession, Ted Lasso, and Parks and Recreation. So we get the draft eligible characters from those shows. We have to draft them for the utility positions. Are we ready? Because if we're ready, I'm going to start the live draft. Everybody ready?
Let's do this.
The first team picking their fantasy utility is the Shiv Roy of Public Utility Raiders with General Manager Debra Smith. So Debra, you're up with the first pick of the first round of our fantasy utility draft.
Love it.
Okay,
you're on
so
the clock.
This is for CFO, correct?
This is for CFO. Who will be your CFO?
I want Jerry Kelman.
You want Jerry? You're going to steal Jerry in the first round.
I got Jerry.
Do you need me to pick her, or do you have the app up so you can pick her yourself?
Oh, I need you to pick her. Yeah. I'm not equipped to do that.
Okay, so it should be up. Okay, it's up now. The second team, Tom Haverford, the Leslie Higgins of Nelson Road GNT, Matt Shretnick has picked Tom Haverford. Well done.
I see that. He went so fast.
Stevie Budd of Rosebud Cooperative. Karen Himes as the general manager. Who is your first pick of the first round?
Let's see here. Hold on, I have to see. I'm trying to pick Leslie Knope. Oh, select player.
You're gonna pick Leslie Knope as the CFO?
Yeah, I am.
That's very bold of you. That's very bold.
Well,
Okay, did you get it?
I thought I did.
Wait,
Okay, it's my turn.
Wait, I'm sorry, but so I got Leslie. Wait, who did Matt pick?
Tom Haverford.
You questioned me picking Leslie and he picked Tom.
No, I got that.
Well, he's always been good with money, right?
Okay, he did it so fast I couldn't comment. Okay, I'm gonna win the first round because I'm picking Ben Wyatt. Ben Wyatt of Parks and Rec, who is excellent with money. He was the youngest mayor of a town in Park and Rec history, or in that world's history. He's great with money. He manages the budget. I think it's the best draft. That world.
Right.
So for the second round, for round 2 of the draft, we are picking for a customer service representative. I am first up on round 2, and I am stealing April Ludgate as my customer service representative. Bam! I got April.
It's a good choice. That's a good choice.
Not gonna take anything from anybody.
Okay, so that means it's me, and I'm gonna go with it's like a 3-way tie of Schitts Creek characters for me, but I think I'm gonna go with Moira Rose.
Ooh, Moira Rose.
See, I was torn. I
had her for line foreman, so I'm
line foreman. That'd be a good one.
Okay, Matt, you're up next.
For customer service representative, I feel like Roy Kent is the obvious answer for me.
That is a good one.
I think that was a really good choice.
That's a good. Okay, so it's my turn. Oh,
it's your turn.
You get to go twice because we're doing the snake draft.
Oh,
it's a snake draft.
I was glad I was not first or last, so I didn't have to have.
Okay, so for customer service, I'm going to take David Rose and hope that he brings his husband, who also had a store. And so I think that that would work.
You can't steal Patrick. Patrick is one of the people.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go. So I took David Rose for customer service. So now I'm on line foreman, and I think I'm going to take. I think it'll be really interesting to see to see how Kendall Roy does running a line crew.
Kendall Roy is the line foreman. Okay.
Together.
Okay. So then now we're back to Matt, the Leslie Higgins of Nelson Road G&T.
I'm going Logan Roy.
Wow.
For a line foreman.
Line foreman. Right?
Okay. Yeah, I'm here for it. If that's what you think's right, I'm here for it. Okay, Karen, who you got? Who you got for your line foreman?
Succession, of course.
My line foreman is going to be Stevie Budd.
Okay. I mean,
that's a good
Ted
choice.
Lasso. Ted Lasso is just there. I'm gonna take Ted Lasso. I'm just gonna take Ted Lasso as my line foreman. I think Ted Lasso is gonna make a great line foreman. He's gonna make sure his people know, got enthusiasm to go out there and work. He's got the enthusiasm. I think he's gonna be a great line foreman.
That's a great choice. That is a great choice. I wanted him for power manager. I felt like
he's available in the third round. You just gotta take him in the third round. Okay, so now it's back to me for the distribution engineer. Round 4 is the distribution engineer. And I get Ron Swanson as my distribution engineer. He's just sitting there. I got back-to-back Ted Lasso, Ron Swanson draft picks. I'm like hitting it out of the park. This utility is going to be lit. This is going to be a great utility. He is so ingenuity. It has such great ingenuity. He's going to solve all of my engineering issues with, baling twine and a pocket knife.
There you go.
And bacon.
Bacon.
So much bacon is going to be cooking on our Transformers. Okay, Stevie Budd, what do you got?
I've got Ann Perkins as my distribution.
I wanted her.
Okay. All right. So now I'm looking at my distribution manager.
Yes, your distribution engineer.
Pardon me. I apologize. Thank you for that clarification. I feel like Keely Jones, the obvious choice as far as I'm concerned.
That's a good choice.
It's an interesting, obvious choice. Okay. I mean, I feel like Ron Swanson will make
obvious to me.
That's fine. Okay, Debra, you're up.
Is anybody else here feeling the same way I feel, which is like I feel sorry for the people that haven't been picked yet? That's always the problem.
Yeah.
Don't tell them. But I'm going to go
Except for
ahead.
Nate.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick Greg Hirsch.
You're gonna pick cousin Greg as your distribution engineer? Oh man, you're gonna have a really fun utility
It's gonna be really great.
Really fun.
I gotta find him. Okay, there we go. Check the box, select the player. Do you really want him? Yes.
No, do you really
Yes,
want
you
to?
really
They
want
asked you.
You really want him. Okay. Lastly, you need your last pick, Deborah,
Oh
as
my
the
God.
Shiv Roy of Public Utility Raiders. Who is your A power manager going to be?
Yeah, and that is the real role, isn't it? The power manager. I think there's some
mean,
folks here that might agree with that. Well,
Obviously, it's.
I think I'm
we
gonna
are
have-
drafting it last
We're going with
maybe-
Coach Beard.
Oh,
That's a
Yes.
good one.
Oh, I love when somebody picks Coach Beard for their power manager. That's a win. That's a win.
That's
Okay.
one of your favorite things.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Matt,
All right,
who
well,
you got? Coach
I
Beard's
gotta
off
go-
the table.
I know, but I feel like Rebecca Welton could really do the
Oh,
job
that
well.
is who I was gonna go with. Oh,
Okay.
now I really got to think about this.
Yeah,
On the clock.
yeah. What do you got? You're on the clock, Karen. You
I
have,
know.
you know,
You guys see
the
me
top
like,
picks. Yeah. Alexis
top
Rose is
picks.
still on the table.
I
Andy
know.
Dwyer. We also
All
have
good
Connor
options.
Roy. Jamie Tart is still on the table.
I
Jamie
know,
Tart.
my namesake.
still
Okay, hold on. I'm
available.
gonna scroll through one more
Uh,
time.
Okay.
Double check I'm not missing who I want. Now I gotta go with Alexis Rose. Okay.
Yeah, Alexis Rose,
Yeah.
a good
No,
fit.
I feel good about
That's a
that.
good choice.
Manage risks.
I
Okay.
like
and-
Alexis Rose. I was gonna say Connor Roy. He would make a good, like, I don't know, public relations manager.
In the 6th round, the round we haven't done yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I feel like there's an obvious choice here that I haven't taken yet. I'm just going to scroll through similarly.
Yeah.
my
check.
first round draft pick got taken as first overall. Jerry, who I think was a great
Mm-hmm.
risk manager here. But instead, I'm going to take Leslie Higgins. I think he is the director of football operations for AFC Richmond. I think he has a decent understanding of
Thought
risk and
about it.
business operations. And Leslie Higgins, he's gonna fit well with my team. That's really important.
He's going to fit well with your team that my team is named after. I like that.
Yes. I got Ron, which is my team. My team is named after, plus Leslie and some Ted. I got a good team. I got star-studded cast.
You have a great
Everybody,
team.
I'm going to run through and provide for our people listening on the Apple podcast who may not have followed. I'm going to read through it and then we're going to figure out who won. Okay.
On the off chance they didn't remember
Debra Smith.
every single one
Yeah,
of these
did you not
players.
make notes?
Yes. So Shiv Roy, Debra Smith, who's the Shiv Roy of Public Utility Raiders, has the first overall pick as her CFO as Jerry from Succession. As her, actually, I gotta go make sure because I probably customer service representative. She went with David Rose. David Rose is a customer service representative. For
Great
the line
choice.
foreman, we have Kendall Roy. For the distribution engineer, we have cousin Greg, and for a power manager, she has Coach Beard. How do you feel about your team, Deborah? Before we move on to Matt.
I feel like my team is really solid, but I didn't really understand that I needed to select Sim in order to have her on my team.
No,
And now-
the
yeah.
name works anyway. It works anyway.
Anyway, but
You did a
It was
great
a
job
great
coming
name.
up with it.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think we're good at the end of the day. Yep.
Okay, Matt as the Leslie Higgins of Nelson Road G&T has Tom Haverford as his CFO. Interesting choice there. Roy Kent as his
What
customer
you're looking for
service
is
rep.
brilliant, I think.
Probably going to get some calls about the F word on that one. Logan Roy as the line foreman. Not going to take anything from anybody. I don't know if work will get done, though, other than, I don't know. Anyway, Keely Jones as a distribution engineer and Rebecca Welton as a power manager.
It's a good power manager right there.
Very good power manager. Okay, and Karen Heim is the Stevie Budd of Rosebud Cooperative, has Leslie Nope as her CFO. I feel like you just wanted to steal her as soon as you could as the
soon
first
as I
round
could.
draft pick. Like, he's on the board, I'm taking it.
Yep.
Any position. It's positionless. This is
Exactly.
positionless utility. Is a positionless utility a real thing, Deborah? I feel like maybe that's where we're evolving to.
It's a matrix management. Everyone
matrix
does
management.
everything, and then conversely, everyone does nothing.
Everyone.
So,
well,
you
Mortar
gotta have a
Rose
utility
is-
player.
Mortar Rose is Karen's customer service representative. Those are going to be long calls and sometimes very short calls. Stevie Budd will be the line foreman. Ian Perkins as the distribution engineer, and Alexis Rose as a power manager. That's a very Parks and Recs and Schitts Creek heavy lineup. I very much respect that. And
Thank
me
you.
as the Ron Swanson of Pawnee Public Utilities. I have Ben Wyatt as my CFO. I was thinking more of like the skills and aptitude necessary for that role. I feel like Ben really has that. April Ludgate as the customer service representative. Also going to be a lot of very short phone calls. Ted Lasso as a line foreman. We're going to have very like enthused and empowered line working crews. We have Ron Swanson as our distribution engineer, so that line crew is going to be using a lot of duct tape, and I don't know what else. He's going to solve all our problems. And Leslie Higgins as a power manager, an all-star lineup. Thank you very much for playing our game. Congratulations, everybody. You won the game.
Everybody won.
So I have two comments.
You can make the comments. Yeah,
It goes away. I have
a very
two
long
comments
pause.
here. One, it should concern folks how much prep and research Paul put into choosing his team. I mean, I'm impressed, and yet I'm slightly horrified. Although I will say, I did ask Alexa today, where is Schitts Creek? Where does it take place? And I did learn it's a real town in Ontario, near Ontario, Canada. There is actually a town, and it was named after that, and that's where it's supposed to be. That was actually number two. I said I had two things, and I rolled them into one.
Perfect. Okay, we are out of time. Debra, can what question do you want? Do you want to talk about markets? Do you want to talk about electrification, or I don't know, electrification?
What do you want me to talk about?
Well, I think we should just dive into it. And if the first question takes us a minute, great. We can have the second.
I'll go fast.
Okay, go fast.
That's my comment. That was a ton of fun, and that took way longer than I thought it would. I'm glad we don't have a hard
And
stop.
we still
in 3
moved
minutes.
through it like pretty briskly.
I think we did. I feel really stressed right now.
Deborah's like, I'm stress sweating right now.
And we'll ask you some
Well,
easy questions.
Yeah.
Thank you again. That was a lot of fun, and I'm really glad we won the game. Deborah, we're hoping to touch on markets for a quick moment, which, as usual, seems to be the topic du jour. What's going on? Well, CAISO is continuing to pursue EIM expansion while working to put the finishing touches on EDAM market design and governance issues. SPP has taken another swing at a custom Northwest solution with their Markets Plus initiative. The newly formed Western Markets Exploratory Group, or WMEG, has retained the services of our friends at Utilicast to evaluate regional market structures to improve affordability, reliability, and decarbonization opportunities across the West. So having said all that, I'd love to hear your thoughts, whether they're representative of Public Power, of Seattle City Light, or of just Debra alone. I leave entirely to you. Curious, who has it right? What does the future hold, and what are we working towards?
Okay, so I again, keeping with my theme and my prep for today, I have 5 comments that I would make about markets. Number 1, to market, to make some more cash. Home again, RTO in a flash. So where is this all headed? This is headed to an RTO. And for me, it's not really about CAISO or SPP or anybody else. It's about what's the best path for the Northwest. I don't think about it in terms of public power, because I think if anything that the last, I don't know, gosh, how many years, 20 years in the look back has proven is that public power isn't going to stand up a market. So this is one of those where we're all in this together. So it's about what's the best path to an RTO. Number 2, markets are about making money. And public power customers benefit when we get it right and are able to offset T&D costs with secondary revenue. So markets are pretty easy for me. Number 3, I'm a big believer in markets, and Seattle participates in the EIM. It's been successful for us. It's been a good experience. And we're very involved in all of the market expansion efforts that you just mentioned, Matt. So we are approaching those from the basis of choice is best for the Northwest. We are not, in order to stay as clean as possible, we haven't even talked about how we will decide what, if anything, to participate in. So for instance, even though we are an EIM participant, we have not begun to talk about whether we would participate in an EDAM. What we really wanted to do was to be able to be in here because we were asked to be, and to just be an advocate for ensuring that the special needs of public power, which really translates into Bonneville, are there in whatever options are available, and two, that there are options. So number 4, as someone who feels strongly about renewables, I gotta say what we really need is transmission. That's what we need. You know, we don't really need a market or another market. We need transmission. Markets won't deliver transmission, and they won't equitably allocate the cost of building the big pipes that will be required to continue moving away from carbon and maintain resource adequacy. So that's where an RTO is the most efficient way to get large transmission projects planned, built, and funded. And so I just think that's true. And so lastly, I want to say, and I kind of already said this, choice is good. We don't want to be seen as obstructive. And at the same time, the timing and sequencing of all of the various outcomes is critical. So, you know, that's really the issue. And I think there is, so I think we should be focused, one, on what is the path, the best path to an RTO, and then what is the timing, sequencing, and scale of that project.
When you talk about path, and we're running out of time, but I just want to get the one thing. When you're talking about path, are you talking about like incremental steps as a path, or like process as a path? What do you mean by path?
Yeah, that's a really
maybe
good
that's
question.
too simple of a question. Maybe I am a simplistic. I spent a lot of time on the fantasy utility draft, obviously.
He forgot to study up on markets for this.
Right.
No, I don't know. That's a really good question. I think it's both, to be honest with you. No, I think the incremental path is the path that the CAISO has established as their choice. And SPP, because in my opinion, in some ways, you know, they are, you know, I want to be careful because I know all of these people and I want to be sensitive and I don't have a favorite, but I think.
And they all listen, right? And they all,
yeah,
they all listen.
But I want to say that I think SPP is now working really, really hard to get their stuff in there before CAISO, who's also working really, really hard. And CAISO, the timing for CAISO is really problematic because the governance issues haven't been resolved. And so that's why they're focused on an incremental path, because they can't go to market for expand the market without governance fixes. And I think we all know that. And yet it's interesting that SPP is not capitalizing on that and saying, wow, are you interested in an RTO? Because, hey, we could do that for you. And so I think there is a process component, and I think CAISO is very, very clearly playing an incremental step strategy.
Okay. We better get to the next one, Karen.
I think that was very well said. Thank you.
Yeah, it was.
Okay. Debra, Public Power Underground is notoriously in the bag for utility-owned electric vehicle public charging, and SCL has been following in Classic and IPUD's footsteps with ownership of public charging stations. And we don't have a question yet, just a lot of comments. And on March 30th, you announced a new electric bus charging base, which is incredibly innovative. Moreover, Seattle City Light just developed an electrification study with EPRI. So here's the actual question. As we consider the energy transition that is dependent on electrifying the majority of our economy, what are the insights you have or that you've garnered through this analysis and experience, and the best ways to do the work of the electrification?
Oh, that's a great question. And see, I didn't have the question, so my list doesn't necessarily match that. So I'll do my best. I think that we are overly focused on personal vehicles when we talk about electrification. And I think, so for me, the metro, the mass transit, we are also working with maritime industry at the Port of Seattle. We are really trying to focus on in drayage and the drayage vehicles from the port. We are really trying to focus our efforts on the biggest bang for the buck, which isn't individual charging. And yes, I drive a Tesla. So, I mean, I'm a big believer in people in electric vehicle adoption, but quite frankly, that's not it. And especially when you think about equity. So take this back to the DEI question that we had earlier. The majority, certainly not all, and this will change over time, of limited income customers or customers who live in areas or who themselves are part of a population that has been disadvantaged for a very long time. Those are also the same customers who often can't afford the investment in an electric vehicle. And there are often customers who aren't driving a personal vehicle at all. They're more dependent, at least in the Seattle area, on mass transit. So hence our focus on mass transit. We want to get these big buses and carbon producing vehicles out of the neighborhoods where historically disadvantaged people have lived, because we know that it shortens their lifespan. It is that serious. So our focus on electrification, and this includes grid modernization, all the infrastructure that is the backbone for electrification, is to start by doing so in areas that have traditionally come last. So that's why for us, the focus is on port, the focus is on Metro, which is the King County mass transit provider. And then the focus is on working with, we are siting publicly owned charging stations in areas that are not attractive to the private sector. So again, we want to be the equity provider. So the private sector comes in and they have an interest in the Seattle area, and there's lots of folks trying to put for-profit charging structures in place, and we work with them all, and we're thrilled to do so. But then we come along and we fill in the blanks. So that's our strategy. The other is we are willing to do different things. So what was most unique about the project with Metro was that we project managed the development of that base station, because what they came to us and said, hey, we're a governmental entity, you're a governmental entity. We don't know very much about this. How'd you like to be the project manager and design this for us? We said, great, we don't really know that much about it either, but we've got a ton of electric engineers and we need to learn. So we did it. And so I think for us, that was probably the first example of really looking for a diverse revenue stream that wasn't about our side of the meter.
That's very awesome.
Great answer. I have lots of thoughts. Would love to follow up more, but we'll do it later. I do think, I'll just say this, I think the alignment between even the urban areas and a rural community like Clatskanie PUD is the investment from private companies is going to be in areas with a lot of traffic, right, where there are commercial opportunities. And for Seattle City Light, where you're providing the public charging infrastructure in areas that they aren't interested in. Same thing happens for rural utilities too, right? We aren't on the top of the list for some third party to come in and install it. That's a great place for electric utility enthusiasts like us to provide electric vehicle public charging infrastructure.
And it keeps us out of the competing with the private sector, which is also, sometimes an issue, and it goes back to the old days of broadband and who wants to compete with AT&T.
Yeah. Okay, so this is right on point for me, because electrification is something we talk a lot about. Matt and I talk with a lot of different guests on here about the need of people in the electrification. Like if we're going to increase our retail loads by 50%, like Jesse Jenkins, the associate professor of Princeton, when he came, we interviewed him on Public Power Underground. It's a great interview. Talked about 50% increase in our retail loads in order to enable this transition. Saul Griffith, the author of Electrify and Rewiring America, the founder of Rewiring America, talks about the billions of machines we're going to have to electrify and the millions of HVAC technicians and electricians we're going to need to do it. And recently on Energy Twitter, HK, a celebrity on Twitter, he sent out a tweet that I think encapsulates my perspective on this whole thing, is that it's pretty clear policymakers do not realize how large of a labor demand shock climate adaptation will be, unquote, end of tweet. So from my perspective, the scaling up our workforce remains one of the biggest challenges facing electric utilities in the transitions. Question for you, Debra. How do we do this well? How do we do it? Are we ready for this?
Yeah, I mean, we're talking a lot about that here. No, we're absolutely not ready for it.
We aren't, are we?
And people want to harken back. I hear it in conversations. They want to harken back to the last recession and when the ARA funds came about and there was a green jobs component. And if you got federal funding for anything, and people all sat around and talked about how do you create green jobs? And really all that was converting existing jobs into greener jobs. They weren't new jobs. I think that given how high or how low unemployment was before the pandemic hit, where we had a very well employed population. I think we actually get to lean into that now, which wasn't necessarily the answer back with the last time. So I think what we need to be doing is converting jobs. And almost every conversation that I have, and I don't know the answers. I mean, I could say, hey, it strikes me that some of the answers are the old answers. Some of the answers might even be the old answers from the spotted owl days of the 1980s, when you had a huge loss of jobs in the wood products industry in the Northwest. And so what the federal government did then was they made large amounts of retraining dollars available. So people could go to school and they could be retrained in a different piece. So all these new people, we need them. We also have all these gas employees and people who are working in the carbon sector who at some point are going to lose their jobs. And that's that's part of what is getting in the way of the transformation, right? Is labor cares. People, we all care. We care about those people. So sometimes I talk to Mary Kitt from PSC, the gas utility, who is our neighbor. And that's one of the things for her. It's that she's most concerned about her workforce, making sure that her workforce has a place to land. So we need to be retraining these people. We also need to rethink how we're talking to kids who are coming out of school. There's going to be a huge amount of jobs, and it's kind of like the old days of energy efficiency. So I will throw out one, this is not a unique idea as well, but something that EWEB did really, really well for a long time. And Matt, I think it ended before you were there, but we were a huge funder of a program at the local community college that taught people how to be energy efficiency experts so that they could go in your home and help you figure out what you needed to do. Eventually, we stopped funding it because the growth of new jobs in that area slowed down to the point that we were paying to educate people who were leaving the region. And that didn't make sense. But I think we have a similar opportunity here, but perhaps in a different way, and perhaps in a way that partners with labor. I think if we're going to be successful, government is going to have to partner with labor on how do we transition jobs for people, and how do we provide funding while they're in training for new jobs. I worry right now, just to be super honest, I'm super excited to see what kind of funding streams come our way as a result of our work and the infrastructure bill. When we think about Build Back Better, and we think about some of the funding that's in that piece that hasn't yet passed around energy efficiency, I think for me to deliver those services to customers, the volume of additional people that I would need is just off the chart. And so I don't have the answer, but I think we better get started.
Matt, you came off, but did you have something there?
No, go ahead.
Well, you mentioned you have a 16% unfilled positions currently, and like it's a just exponential burden, right? On top of you don't have enough people, you have enough people to go find more people. So in my perspective, we need to be doing this now. You need to be finding those other organizations, community colleges where you can fund programs now, because we need them. My perspective is really soon. We need them now, and then we're going to need more of them really, really, really soon.
Yeah, I think that you're right. And I think that, but then add one more leg to that stool, because I think about what's fueling the Great Resignation. And we talked about some of that already, but so in our industry, and I don't know about your utilities, but in our industry, and certainly at City Light, we think of ourselves as a place-based organization. And so what that refers to is that we do work in physical places, and our ops teams, they're out at your home, they're in the right of way, they're at our facilities. And so we have not yet made any decision we have chosen not to offer full-time remote work. And as we look at how we add people now, some of those jobs are place-based jobs. If I'm doing energy efficiency work, I need to be able to show up at my customer's home. But some of the jobs that we need are not. And even some of the support jobs. So to your point, the folks who are doing recruitment and, screening people, and those are jobs that some of these folks are leaving and saying, hey, I can go do this work remotely 100%. And that's what I want to do. And I'm going to move out of state, and Seattle's too expensive of a place to live. And so you have a lot of stuff, so that's just another layer that is adding to the complexity and is going to really challenge our ability to stand things up quickly and to do exactly what you just described.
Yeah, but for me, that's some of the exciting part of it too, because you're a place-based organization, the value to the people in your community, right? They see it, they feel it, you're in there right away, you're in their homes doing and so there's so much value that we can provide as electric utilities, as a place-based organization that is a unique advantage amongst some of our other peers that may work in our community, but aren't as place-based as us. I think it's
I agree.
Exciting proposition.
Yeah, I agree. It's just that not, when we were talking about what do younger workers want, some of them they don't necessarily want that. And it's challenging. I feel like for us, just to close that loop, saying 1 or 2 days a week, that is as much of a compromise as that I can feel comfortable offering at this point. Could change. I'm sure it will change. The only thing I'm certain is that it will change.
Yeah.
How about that?
Good thing to be certain of.
That might be the right place to end that one. The one thing we know for certain is change. Aside from that, we've got some really good ideas and had some really good conversation.
I'm sorry that did I take us off?
No.
Oh, that was great.
Geez, no, please do not apologize for any of that. That was fantastic.
Yeah, that's what we're here for. I mean,
Exactly.
I love talking about this stuff. I'm passionate about this stuff. Also passionate about Public Power Underground merch. So similar to how Jasper has asked Xavier to bless his track on the hit show, The After Party, I'm wondering if you're willing to bless my track and endorse the Public Power Underground merch for electric utility enthusiasts, soon to have an item in the store that says, "We make life more comfortable." You really ready to bless this merch?
I bless this merch. I love this merch. In fact, I was thinking about this. I buy my team members Christmas and birthday card gifts each year. And I think my team members are all going to receive some of this amazing underground merchandise for their Christmas 2020, holiday 2022 gifts. And I can't wait.
I love
breaking news. You're welcome, everyone. You got some Public Power Underground merch.
Breaking news.
And I have a new grandson coming in September, so I'm going to have to order the onesie and make sure that it's here.
We got to
I
teach
just
these
got
kids
one,
about
Dave.
the demand balance constraint. Karen, your kid is coming out with one, right? It's going to be great.
Yeah, he's going to be looking great from the get-go.
You're coming out with one?
That'd be a trick.
It's loose. It's loose.
That'd be a trick.
Well,
was
and if that happens,
sacrilege.
if he comes out with one, I want him on my team. I want him to be my top.
He's ready from the get-go.
It's going to be a recruiting battle for Karen and Karen's children. It's a recruiting battle. I'm here.
Speaking of
I'm
recruiting,
here with the enthusiasm.
I've got, so my whole family is now decked out in this. I've got them being shipped to my father and his wife back east. We've got it all here, and the team will be receiving them for the holidays as well, to your point. But the point I wanted to make with respect to recruiting, Paul, the other thing that we heard from Debra earlier was, a part of the solution, right? Be a part of the moment, be a part of the solution. You want to talk about recruiting, public power, be a part of the solution. There you go.
Part of the solution. I have a pitch for why public power is like, it provides great value to communities, and is even better. Like, that mission is a really sweet spot for people. I'm happy. I love public power. I love electric utilities. All of us, we're great people.
We are amazing people.
I'm glad we all agree on that.
And I'm so happy that I got to spend, an hour plus with such amazing people.
Tom Haverford,
Karen, are you gonna
text line? I'm awesome at being humble.
Are you gonna text Scott Sims, let him know Deborah's gonna be late, Karen?
Yeah, I'll send him that text.
Okay. Scott, we're sorry she was late.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Matt,
right.
are you closing
Thank
this out?
you.
Matt's closing this out.
Thank you
Matt's
so
closing
much
this
for the
out.
conversation and your patience and generosity with your time. Paul's going to put links to everything mentioned in the show notes today, where obviously, it probably goes without saying at this point, you'll also find links to merch. Thank you so much once again for your time, and we sincerely hope this was fun, and we sincerely hope that you will come back and join us again in the future.
Oh, I will, but only if you promise that next time I can actually win the game, because the fact
You
that we
did.
all, no, you said we
See,
all
Paul,
got,
there's
we
got to
all
be a
won.
winner.
It was exactly what I said would happen because you're millennials. Everyone got a trophy.
This was the problem I had initially. This was my
Yeah.
question to Paul. I
He
said,
really
I want
did. There were
the game, but I
many
don't
questions
understand how
about
I
it.
win.
Type A
no
personalities
snack or
abound.
there was no snack or juice box after the game.
Okay, where are the orange slices?
All right, guys, I gotta run. I gotta go
Yeah.
to dinner.
You gotta go.
Enjoy your dinner.
Yeah.
Thanks once
Thank you
again.
very much. We're over at, thanks to Deborah, Karen, and Matt for the really informative conversation. Great conversation this week. To make sure you don't miss the next episode or other great bonus content, you can sign up for an unintrusive newsletter with links to all the ways to consume this fascinating content at publicpowerunderground.substack.com. Otherwise, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, or your favorite podcast app. You can also find a link on our Substack page to buy fabulous merch from Shopify. I should have had that website up. Maybe I'll just take a brief moment here to go search for Public Power Underground merchandise. Yes, I found it. The link's easier to find if you go to our Substack page, but it's like public-power-underground.myshopify.com. And just go to our Substack. It's a super easier website to find. New merch ideas were included in this episode. So to check to see if I have actually gotten that merch up on our Shopify page, you should go check out the website when you hear this to see if we get the "We Make Life More Comfortable" Debra Smith quote on maybe a shirt you want or a mug. I don't know where we're gonna put it yet. By the time you hear this, it may be on something or it may not. Just come back later if it isn't yet. You don't have to be subscribed to News Data to get this podcast, but it sure makes our podcast make a lot more sense. That's all for this week. Thanks for tuning in. Public Power Underground is a production of Clancy PUD and News Data. The views expressed are our own and not the official views of Clancy PUD, News Data, or the organization of the guests also appearing on Public Power Underground. Public Power Underground is public power and public power adjacent news from a power department's perspective. It's written and directed by Clancy PUD's Power Department, led by me, Paul Dockery, and it's edited and published by the stellar team at Pioneer Utility Resources, led by associate producer Sarah Wooden. Our theme song, Roll On Enthusiast, was rewritten, performed, and recorded by Aaron Guillory and Ian Bledsoe. Public Power Underground for electric utility enthusiasts. Public Power Underground, it's worth to watch.